football update. It's with your host, Sean Spencer and Alex Loosemore.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. And you see it, it's college football update. So you see I got my guy a little early, but we're getting it done this Tuesday. Michigan's own Alex Loosemore. What up, Alex?
Not too much, man. It was an exciting week of college football. Some upsets, some big games, some new faces showing up, some guys bouncing back. There's definitely a lot to talk about, which is why we're fitting this show in here. And I cannot wait to get into it.
Oh, absolutely, man, and a lot of shockers, and some things
Yeah.
we expected to see, and some, like you said, to your point, new faces. But look, let's get right into it. Georgia, number one team in the land, survives against Bob Stoops, Mark Stoops, and the Kentucky Wildcats in Kentucky. And I think the question is, I've heard people say that, Georgia overlooked them. I've heard people say, they just had a bad game. By the numbers, Kentucky outplayed these guys all the way through, man. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, I didn't watch this game. I was keeping track of like score stats, all that as we were going. I was watching the UFC card, and it was just one of those where I was like, that exact thought, like, oh man, Kentucky's outplaying these guys. I wonder if they'll be able to steal it. And it was just time after time after time checking in and like, oh man, this is still close. Like, is Georgia going to pull away? Is Georgia going to pull away? Is Georgia going to pull away? And they didn't. So I think there's part of it where Georgia may have overlooked these guys with the bye in Alabama. I think that's definitely a small part of it. But at the same time, Kentucky regularly plays these guys pretty close.
Yeah.
So I think it's a mix of the overlooking, a mix of Kentucky playing up for a higher level team, and starting to see more and more of this kind of playing field leveling out that we've been talking about with transfer portal and NIL and this and that. So I think it's a big deal. I don't think Georgia should just like brush this off like, oh, a win. Like a win is a win, obviously, but they've got to analyze this tape and figure it out because Bama's their next game, and that's a tough one.
Oh, absolutely. And they have a week in between. They have a bye week this week, and then they get to play Bama. So, Kirby's going to have them boys ready. To your point, I do think that I hope they take a look at this tape and see there are some areas that if you're able to exploit, Georgia could be susceptible to get beat. I was telling Colin and Anthony, over the last couple of weeks, I've seen if a team can get to the edge on you, if a team can run the ball and kind of stretch them and then gash them up the middle as well. Georgia has not had an answer to that. And we saw this past week, Kentucky just dedicated all their time to run the ball. I mean, Brock Vandegrift only had 114 some odd yards passing in that game, but they were able to put up, I think, 170 rushing yards total on a Georgia team that is known for having such a stout run defense. So it's interesting. Again, like you said, they did get the W, but I definitely think this is not something that you're going to be able to do, especially with that schedule they got coming up. And you mentioned them playing Alabama soon.
Yeah, one other thing, that outside run game, that's gashed them a bit the last couple years here. Yes, we saw Cody Schrader in Missouri do it at will last year.
Exactly. Yeah.
South Carolina moved the ball on them by playing on the outside a lot. And I think it speaks to the linebacker play that they used to have versus what they have now. You don't have your Nakobe Deans, your Quay Walkers, those guys on the inside that can go sideline to sideline that are freakishly fast, physical, big play guys. You haven't really seen that yet from this Georgia team or last year's, really. Yeah. So, I think this leaves them susceptible big time. And the one big thing is those outside plays can lead to big plays, big gains. You break one tackle, you make one extra block, and that's gone.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So, hey, we'll see. Like you said, Kirby Smart's going to have 2 weeks essentially to prepare for Bama. And so he's going to have them boys fired up and ready to go. So expect a different team than what we saw on Saturday. But, hey, we will see. We'll see what happens. But look, that was a huge story. But the other major story, what we've all been waiting for, not necessarily Ewers getting hurt, and we hope that things are, everything's going to be better and he'll get back there. But we all been waiting to see Arch Manning put in some time, and look, he didn't disappoint. I mean, his first pass was a touchdown pass, and he had that 67-yard run. And I think he doubled the career high rush long for both of his uncles. Peyton and Eli only got about 30 something, which is surprising. Yeah. Right. So talk to us about this, man, because yes, it was UTSA who last couple of years they have been, pretty solid, but this year they have been struggling. What I mean, is this what we expected, or is this part of the course because of the team he has and all that stuff?
It's a tough one. I think this is what the hype was expected. Yeah. Like everything that he was billed out to be, this is what it was. He showed up and he played to that hype. Yeah. He made all that hype, all that press around him, everything worth it. Like if you remember back to the playoff game last year, there's hardly anybody interviewing Quinn Ewers at the bowl game because they're all interviewing Arch.
Right.
And I mean, you look at the numbers, like you said, he had that 67-yard run on 3 rushes, 53 yards. He took a sack or 2 and lost a couple yards there, but had that touchdown. Only threw 12 passes, 9 completions, 4 touchdowns, 223 yards.
Come on, man.
A touchdown essentially every other completion or every 3 pass attempts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care if you're playing the low-level colleges. This is a Div 1 team, and you did that to them. Mm-hmm. That's extremely impressive.
Oh, absolutely. What's going on, Diggs, BTW? And so that's the thing. You still got to go out there. Everybody still suits up, and they still ball out. And he came in, and they didn't miss a beat. There was no hiccup. They just kept moving, and you saw how well he played and how he was able to extend that lead. But I did think it was funny, and I talked to Anthony and Colin about this last night. If you were watching that game, during the game, they had the Dr. Pepper commercials, and they had the one with Ewers in there, and you see Bosworth saying, "Call for backup." He said, "Backup? We don't need backup, even if he does have nice hair and great uncles and all that."
That one. I think they were like, we have to put this one in here. Like, but it doesn't look good when you say that, and then your backup does that. And I mean, Quinn, while he was in, played very well too. Let's not twist this at all. He played very well. He's played great all year. Before he got hurt, he was my Heisman favorite. Mm-hmm. But man, it's hard to deny how good Arch looked.
It's oof. Look, if you have 2 quarterbacks, sometimes if you're not loyal to one, you can't have loyal to the other. Look, we'll see what happens. This is a great problem to have, but at the same time, you just don't want anybody to have a big head. We know all the fans and everybody is Manning, but I don't know why, because Ewers is still that dude when he's healthy. So
yeah.
We will see. We will definitely see. But look, let's get into it. Let's go around the NCAA. Both of us, came out successful. Our game wasn't even nationally televised, so we play NC Central, so we got that dub. What about you guys? I know you were complaining a lot about your quarterback. There's a little change there, though.
Yeah. So Alex Orji's the starter going into the USC game. I am very excited about that because Davis Warren, again, was brutal. And it's so frustrating because with him, you see those flashes of like, wow, he could be a really good quarterback. But then he makes so many boneheaded plays that like a starting high school quarterback should not make.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no disrespect to Arkansas State, but you shouldn't be throwing 3 interceptions to Arkansas State. Especially when you only throw 14 passes.
Oh.
For 11 of 14, 122 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Orji comes in, only throws 4 times, 2 of 4, 12 yards and a touchdown.
Right.
But the offense it looked smoother with him in the second half. Yeah. And I mean, this was 28-3, I believe. And then we put the backups in with like 5 minutes left. They score 15 points. So score looks a lot closer than it was. I'm excited to see what the offense looks like with Alex Orji going into USC this week, because that defense has gotten much better in Southern Cal, and Miller Moss is playing like that dude too. So USC is going to be a very tough matchup.
Oh yeah, and still, it's never. I mean, it's just the first year we're dealing with this, so it's not going to be easy to wrap your head around. But Michigan played USC in the regular season,
conference football,
right. So hey, the new Big Ten, man, it's craziness, man. But look, let's keep moving down the list. The game that I was watching, our buddy came on here Saturday, Will Kramer. Game day was in South Carolina. He was raring to go. They jumped out to this early lead, and you're like, hey, this might be a cakewalk. But, hey, LSU was no slouch, came back, made this a game. But, Alex, this game, and Will, he griped about it after the game. This game, in my opinion, was stolen from them. 2 pick sixes called back on account of penalties. The second one, where quarterback throws a pick, he's running, looking at the guy running up the field. The defensive lineman simply puts his hands out and, yes, puts a little bit of force to the shoulder. But then all of a sudden the quarterback wants to flop and act like a dead fish on the ground and all this nonsense. And then 3 or 4 flags are coming in here. And the guy's like, I barely touched them. Like, what are we doing? So I get it by the letter of the law. But when it comes down, when the game is close like this, you can't steal a game like that, Alex.
No, LSU to me looked like the Kansas City Chiefs the way the refs bailed them out of these games. It was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah.
And to me, I think even with the refs essentially having an LSU jersey on, if Lenore Sellers plays that second half, they win that game.
True.
He was balling out. He was playing awesome, keeping them ahead of LSU. Just kind of keeping pace, keeping them down. And what they were doing with that run game with him and Raheem Sanders was phenomenal. Yeah. And then he got hurt. That ankle rolled up right before the half there. Robbie Ashford has to come in, and the offense kind of screeches to a halt for a while there, and then it picked back up. But this was a really fun game. I was sitting there too, like I was dual screening that one with the Michigan game, and there was times I was screaming at that game over the Michigan game. Like,
right.
It was a really fun game. Sucks that it ended that way. Will, I feel for you, man. That was a tough one to lose, and that close to 3-0.
Yep, absolutely. But hey, pay attention. You and I know we kind of agree on this. Pay attention to South Carolina this year, man. They're not
100%.
They're not backing down to anybody. And seeing, I think Eric put this in the chat, seeing how South Carolina just smushed. I mean, blew out Kentucky 31-6, and then Kentucky held Georgia. I mean, I forget the word he used, but technically that means South Carolina's above. But we'll see. But talk to me. What other games that you were you watching?
Kind of just cycled through a bunch of the games. I had my eyes on that Memphis Florida State game.
Yes.
Picking that as my one upset. I watched a lot of the Oregon State game.
Yep.
Peeked into Missouri Boston College back and forth. Watched Notre Dame Purdue for a little bit till it was well in hand.
It was done.
A lot of the afternoon was spent kind of just peeking into games. The Utah State, Miami Ball State, Ole Miss, Wake Forest. Watched a little bit of that Texas UTSA game. And then I went up and watched the UFC card, so I didn't see the Georgia-Kentucky game. Was keeping tabs on it, though. Same with Nebraska, Tennessee.
Yeah.
A lot of those ones. Just kind of seeing what was going on.
Yeah. And that was more of what it was. I mean, I caught a little bit of the obvious Michigan State. They, blew out a team, which I know it's Prairie View and A&M or whatever, but still Michigan State ain't blown out many teams.
They're doing what they should do.
Right, which is a surprise, and I'm glad to see. But let's see what happens when they really get into Big Ten play. I know they beat Maryland. But, I mean, again, like you watched Maryland, they beat Virginia. watched a lot of the in-conference stuff. Just I looked around myself. I was focused on those certain games that I was focused on. Very glad for our buddy Eric to see Notre Dame get back on top and really play like the Notre Dame team that we thought they were going to be. It does beg the question, and I asked this to him, which Notre Dame team is the real Notre Dame team? Because I know, everybody can play high like you did, but still, this is what I expected. What I saw last week is what in the world. So it's going to be interesting, man. But yeah, to your point, you called several calls. I think, did you call Washington State over Washington?
Yep. 2 for 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So you did good. I unfortunately decided the 1 week that Oregon is going to ball out to pick against them. They killed Oregon State. And then obviously my South Carolina was this close. So I was personally invested in it. Oh, my goodness.
We might as well count that as right because...
there you go. Oh, yeah. If the refs don't rob me, we're all good. We're all good, man. So, yeah, no, it was a crazy weekend. Obviously, you see Miami, Tennessee, a bunch of those blowing teams out and everything. Ole Miss blowing teams out. So it's going to be quite interesting. Once we start getting into a lot more of this conference play, you're going to start seeing some of these teams, some of these things level out. And some teams are going to – I think we're going to see a lot of shock this coming in October and November, man.
Yeah.
So, but look, like we said, it's going to be a quick, short show. So we're just going to hit you with our week 3 game balls. I'm going to let you start. Who is your first week 3 game ball?
I'm going to go to a guy that is just kind of going into the year can he just keep from turning the ball over and not really kill this team, put them in positions to lose, and that's Alan Bowman at Oklahoma State. The running game didn't do that well. They averaged just barely just over 3 yards a carry. Ollie Gordon was 17 of 41. So Ollie Gordon wasn't that dude this week. Yeah. Alan Bowman goes in there, 24 of 31, just under 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Oh, wow.
And that was on the road at Tulsa. Again, not like a top-tier program they're going against, but still to go in, put those numbers up, and when it's on your back because the running game isn't going well, for you to put that performance out absolutely deserves a game ball.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I'm with that. Yeah, my first game ball, I got to give it to a team, the Kentucky defense, man. They held Georgia at bay, held them to only 160 yards passing, under 300 total yards, and just over 100 yards on the ground. And most of that 100 yards, I think, was 89 by Etienne. So they really shut them down. But I think one of the keys on it, they got off the field on third downs. They held Georgia 5 of 13 on third down. And, I mean, with the exception of the fumble by Vandegrift on Kentucky's offense, that defense was put in great situations, and they stepped up the entire game till the very end. But you can only expect so much when you're going up against Georgia. So Georgia's eventually going to get something. So, but I still got to give hats off goes to that Kentucky defense. Those boys are really playing well, and I definitely like to see it. Who's your second game ball?
I'm going to another guy that we've brought up plenty to start this season. The guy that I think now that Ewers is hurt has kind of separated himself from the pack in the Heisman race, and that's Chem Ward.
Oh, yeah.
I talked about Arch throwing a touchdown every 4 pass attempts. Chem Ward was every 4 completions. So he was right there, step with it. 19 28, just under 350 yards at 346, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks.
Ooh, I like that.
Just phenomenal performance. That's the 3rd one in a row for him.
Okay.
He's got this Miami team firing on all cylinders. And I don't really think there's a team in the country that wants to play Miami right now.
Mm-mm.
This is a team that looks like they're going to probably get one of those top 4 playoff seeds, get that bye, and I think they got a real shot to win it all this year.
You know what? I mean, I gotta agree with you, man. I'm one who's wanted Miami to get back to prominence, get back to this level, and what with Cam Ward at the helm, man, and we know what Chris Ball's getting them done. Like I'm excited for this, man, and with the ACC kind of being down, I mean Florida State being down, we haven't really been tested yet, with the exception of Minnesota. it's going to be interesting down the way, and I'm excited to see what happens. For me, I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna go with our buddy. I'm gonna go with our buddy EK Holiday. He went through a rough week, so I'm gonna go ahead and give him a little love this week. Riley Leonard finally playing like we expected. Again, only 112 passing yards, but if you know his game is not really predicated on his pass. It's more on the threat to run and what he can do in the play action and things of that nature. With that being said, he was, they had two running backs, him and Love, all both had over 100, but he had 11 carries for 100 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. And this game was over before it began. We saw like first half. It was already 42-0, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to him. But to a point of things that we've said before, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what we expected from Notre Dame coming into this year when we said they're definitely going to be in the CFP and they're definitely going to be, playing for a title. So if they can continue this team is a team I expected. Those last teams last week, no disrespect to NIU, but that is not Notre Dame that I expected this season. So
yeah,
we shall see. We shall see. But look, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for us today on College Football Update. I rushed home. I had my buddy on the phone. Like, look, just give me some time. I'm going to get here and we're going to get this thing done, man. So we were able to get it out and talk some football, which we both love doing. So I'm going to let my man go. I know he's got to go to work. I just got home myself.
Unfortunately.
Man. Hey, I understand. I've been down that road, man. But look, for my guy, Mr. Alex Loosemore, it's your boy, Sean Spencer, and you know what this is, College Football Update. We will see y'all on Saturday. Get ready for those games. I know there's some games coming these next couple days, so pay attention to that as well. So, peace, people. We'll see y'all next time.
College Football Update. It's with your host, Sean Spencer and Alex Loosemore.